Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the AMA, first one of the year. Happy New Year, happy Chinese New Year. As I have for some reason my iMac not dialing in, but use my phone here. So what's been happening? I think market conditions wise, obviously in the crypto space, we've seen a complete meltdown towards the end of last year, and then a massive run in the last couple of weeks. I think the debate is raging whether that's actually going anywhere or it's just a short-term pump. I'm not really sure myself. I think towards the end of the year it might be more positive, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. On the security token front, I think there's a lot more going on, especially coming from kind of at least looking at global news and global big brands have all kicked into gear. BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. Most of those guys are building, private blockchain, their own assets, their own investors. So I think it's good, it's positive, but we need to find more and more of the private market asset guys that are not of those types of groups who are also issuing their assets, their security tokens on public chains like we have with Polygon, Ethereum, so they can actually use the technology that we've kind of built, which is public blockchain issued security tokens. So I think we certainly see more activity, globally across the marketplace, and more platforms who have been getting kind of their licenses. Still takes time. I think it still takes a lot of time to get these licenses, and then for people to get the right sort of products up and running. The general and has always been. It just still needs more time to get it going. I think we've been introducing IXSwap to every new security token platform that comes out there, because the whole positioning for that, the model initially still remains that it could be the market maker for all the OTC traded security tokens in all the platforms around the world. So it's agnostic to to the issuance platforms and to the underlying assets themselves. It's still, from my understanding, the only market making solution in the security token space. Just requires, because of its design, because of its DNA, it can't, again, it needs to function with public chain issued security tokens. And even though there has been more and more security token platforms coming to the market, a decent percentage of them have gone and built a private blockchain, and therefore it's a closed system that doesn't really use blockchain as we know it. It's a private ledger. So we can't plug into that right now, although we do have banks and groups who are on private ledgers who have sort of asked if we would be able to do something with our technology stack. Now, if we did something with those groups, those pools would be, again, private pools, so they wouldn't be accessible to everybody. So it's not actually the focus for us, although we kind of entertaining some of those discussions depending on, which company, which brand, how much money they have, what's it kind of look like. But that was never the mission. The mission was never to build a platform that was, built for financial institutions to use it privately. And we want as many pools as possible onto the platform, and obviously try to scale it up that way. So look, I think ultimately, we're just kicking along. It's been a horrible end of last year, the last 6 months, I think, of 2022 for the whole, at least crypto space was very, very negative. We were hoping that we had kind of flushed out all the bad news up until, there wasn't much bad news left. I think it's already priced in that the whole BCG, Gemini Earn saga is the latest drama in the space. That I think is, again, I think that's fairly priced into the market, but it's still not, positive news by any means. Aaron, did you have any other kind of, I guess, initial macro updates that you wanted to share with the crew, or who you've been speaking to and what you think's going on?
Well, I guess that's generally the theme at the moment. Everyone's markets have been in euphoria at the moment, but I think it's a short squeeze. We're seeing the financial results from a lot of the traditional companies report, I guess, in about 2 months' time. I think that's going to be a better gauge of how the economy is doing. There's still that whole recession fear in the backdrop right now, which people aren't really talking about. But I think that might be an issue once the results comes out. Until then, I wouldn't go all into the market. It's not financial advice.
Yeah, I think ultimately you can also see on that note, there's been thousands and thousands of layoffs in the tech space and then in the blockchain space as well. I think most recently, Coinbase laid off another 2,000 people. Yes, it's been obviously really tough times for the space and a lot of people lost their jobs, obviously based off volume and business outlook. And I think a lot of the DeFi platforms have blown up, which is interesting as well, because if you do see through the narratives and you see through the news stories, especially from the US perspective, regulation has been coming. It's coming a lot harder. The SEC in America is trying to kill, unregulated DeFi. They're trying to kill, DAOs, which I guess are essentially unregulated security tokens. And they're trying to, basically say that every token in the world is a security token. I think ultimately that's not great for the crypto space, but a lot of those tokens do have security token features and probably should have been issued more as a security token than a crypto. That being said, we are able to handle all those kind of assets, but there's a lot of complications with sort of tokens that are being launched with thousands of investors all over the world that were or weren't done properly or did or didn't do KYC. So for us, it still goes back to in brackets real security tokens, asset-backed tokens. Actually, off the back of what I've noticed in the last couple of months is this whole concept of RWA, the real world asset tokens, which again, security tokens. So there's another terminology. We started with security tokens, we have digital securities, then we have digital asset securities, and now we've got RWA, real world asset tokens as a terminology. But this is coming in, I think, Block Tower Capital. I was just talking to the team today. Ari Paul, he's quite a well-known, reputable investor in the blockchain industry. They've been talking about putting, $1 billion of real-world asset security tokens into DeFi protocols. I'm still trying to work out exactly what they're up to, but claims to have spent $1 million on legal fees to be able to use asset-backed tokens in a DeFi lending capacity. So again, that's positive stories and action. And I think one of the main themes to come out of last year's meltdown was we've got to stop. We can't continue just to only have cryptocurrency being used to pay yields on lending other cryptocurrencies. And then when all the cryptocurrencies are the only things backing all the other cryptocurrencies, one thing leads to another, and you have an event like last year where it was just a cascade of failures and value destruction. So looking at asset-backed tokens into that space, that would be more useful. And that's already something that's a thing, right? You can take a real world asset that's got nothing to do with tokens, like your house, and you can borrow money off it, right? And so ultimately, I think there'll be a lot more lending and borrowing, but there's a lot of things to work out on that space. We were just talking about that today internally about how to move to lending and borrowing for security tokens, but there's still sort of much work to be done. We need a lot more assets to come out on the platform. But yeah, I think macro, that's kind of where it sits right now. I think there's been a lot of wait and see. We're hoping that, there's still a lot of capital on the sidelines. I'm hoping that people get bored, people have to get edgy. Investment groups have to make investments. They can't charge management fees if they're not actually doing anything. So I think with all that in mind, hopefully by Q2, maybe latest Q3, we start to see a lot more activity generally at a macro level. And we've got to keep building and putting our pieces of the puzzle together along that path. Shara, maybe on to the major topic.
Yeah. So what about InvestaX? What's going on there with the Saas model?
Yeah, so I think ultimately there's two types of models in the world. If I could simplify, you've got in the security token space. So you have token issuance groups that don't have any license, and that was how the whole industry started actually. So I think you had groups like at the time Securitize, TokenSoft, Tokeny, excuse me, just selling a technology solution. So anyone who wanted to tokenize their assets, they could do it. And it's a software service per se. But you need your assets, you need the investors, you need the trading venue, you need your own custody, you need your own broker-dealer license, basically. And so that was limited by nature of people were wanting venues, like an exchange and a place where more people were, different investors and different eyeballs. Then you had the evolution of the space. You had groups coming in, building security token exchanges. I guess T0, probably a big one. And there's more of them now. You've got Archax in London and Securitize, I guess, transformed into that type of model. ADDX in Singapore is like a security token exchange, although they build on private blockchain. And that was the two models. You either had a technology company or you had, a security token exchange. The problem with the first one is obviously there's no licenses, there's no broader investment base, there's no new investors, there's no trading venue. So it's good, but it doesn't really dramatically change, a particular company's business just because they tokenize their assets for themselves. It would change it if they tokenize it for other people and a new audience, and then you can actually do things with these assets, like use them on IXSwap, AMMs, etc. So, and then the second version, which is just the security token exchange, is just like it's their way or the highway. It's like taking a company to NASDAQ, right? Like, hello NASDAQ, I want to list, and NASDAQ's like, this is how you do it. There's one way to do it. Here's how it works. Do it this way or go home. So, there's obviously a space for both of these models, but so what we've seen an opportunity to take a unique position inside the marketplace where we can provide the technology, but we also have the licenses. So you could leverage the licenses, but you could customize and do whatever you want in terms of with your assets and the tokenization. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So InvestaX is pushed to be sort of the leading tokenization SaaS platform, which gives the flexibility to the investment company whilst giving the confidence with the licenses and the compliance sign-off as well. This takes years to get licenses. So if you want to start a security token exchange, today, then there's no way you'd open anywhere in the world within 2 to 3 years from today. So they can leverage our tech, and they can leverage our licenses, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. And we think that that's going to bring to market, a valuable product offering that hasn't really been there to date, and it actually ticks the boxes for both sides. So that was where we've taken the InvestaX platform, and we're excited to be rolling that out this year. And there's a whole bunch of new features and functions coming, and I think it has quite a unique selling point to the rest of the offerings in the marketplace.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's move on to IX1. Because we didn't give an update in December. Maybe we can talk about what's been going on since December and then what we've done in January first.
Yeah, well, I'll go first, and then I'll pass it to Aaron, and I can grab a sip of water. There's a big storm here, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, look, I think ultimately what we're trying to do is to get more STO platforms to integrate with IXSwap. And there's a lot of different things that need to be worked out when you talk to every player.
Can we first touch on, for those that don't kind of understand what that means when we say that we want to integrate with other platforms?
Yeah, so, first of all, you need to sort of identify say an STO platform, so whatever, guys in London or guys in New York, okay, what have they built, right? Like, what do they really have? Do they have an issuance? Do they really have a token issuance platform? Is it really blockchain? Is it really public blockchain? It could be private chain. It could be no chain at all. It could be blockchain washing. So you got to work through that. What protocols we're using? Is it live? Is it going live? Are they? What other restrictions are there? In Hong Kong, the Hong Kong regulators told all the STO platforms you can only list STOs that have been issued somewhere in the world for 12 months before they list on your platform. This is one example, right? So each jurisdiction's got specific. Each platform has licenses with specific characteristics and rules around a particular license, and they're different. So you got to drill down into the nuts and bolts of each particular asset, each particular platform, I should say. How do they do? What are they? Who are allowed to take on board? And then what's basically the architecture of and the design of their platform? Because do they have an OTC market? Is it peer-to-peer? Is it permissioned? Do the platforms need to or the issuers need to control who can buy and sell? Do they want to approve, or is it just an open market, etc.? So these are kind of the characteristics of each particular STO platform. And after that, then it's like, okay, well, so you're coming, you exist like here, and here's the 4 or 50 things that you need. And then we're coming with IXSwap. Can we integrate easily? Do we have to change completely the direction? Do we have to spin it around? Do we have to tweak it? All these kinds of things. So that's what I mean by, when each time we come up to a platform, all nuances, and they've all got, no one platform is the same. That's for sure. And that's
right.
Kind of the way it is, and that's a lot of times how to get licenses. So what we want to try to do is get as many, try to build the most streamlined, replicable, scalable integration play. And we still need to probably tweak it every time we come into a platform, but that would be the ultimate goal. We'd like to just say one size fits all, but that's not necessarily the place. So anyway, so we want more of those STO platforms to use and integrate with IXSwap, because it gives them a liquidity solution for all the issuances. So it's still fundamentally true, the same thing that I think we conceptualized this 2 years ago, and the value proposition and how it should work for these groups remains exactly the same. STO platform, wherever they are, they're telling their clients, you should integrate liquidity for your assets, you can tokenize them, but they don't actually have any market makers. So it has been really frustrating that many of those STO platforms are not integrating yet, or integrating with IXSwap, because they don't have market making solutions, but they're telling the clients that they do have liquidity, but it's not necessarily true. So again, IXSwap DNA is DeFi by design. So a lot of those STO platforms were set up by super TradFi guys, and they don't actually know much about blockchain, or they don't really want to utilize it in the best way. They've just wrapped blockchain around it and thought that's all they need to do to get it going, and they're not innovative enough, and they're not forward thinking enough, and they don't really even understand it. So that's the job of the team, one by one. Aaron, I'll pass it to you. I'm just going to get a drink.
Yeah, and I guess on top of Julian mentioned about the integration, there's a lot of stuff that goes on the legal side whenever we want to integrate with another platform. I mean, we've been in discussion with a couple of groups right now for the last couple of months on looking at how we integrate with a couple of platforms in different jurisdictions. A lot of jurisdictions around the world have very specific laws to each jurisdiction. Like, for example, in Europe, you have the EU laws, and you also have specific individual country restrictions as well. So our legal team has spent a lot of time looking at a lot of individual jurisdictions where some of these STOs have been set up. And the STO, a lot of these STO platforms have been set up in interesting jurisdictions across the world, which might not be that well regulated as well, which has also come to, I guess we've also had to take a couple of decisions on whether we want to accept a lot of these issuers or even SaaS clients onto the platform. But what we'd be doing going forward is that we'd be putting up a register for interest page. Is something that we've been working on for quite a while, where we will be putting all these sort of proposals and any sort of issuers that are looking to tokenize their assets, and we'll let the community register for interest. And if there is enough interest, we'll be launching these deals on the platform. So it becomes a little bit more transparent, so you guys can actually see all the deals that are coming to the table and what's, I guess, real and what's not half the time.
Yeah, I think, ultimately we'll still be trying to get that retail investor access sorted out as well. And that's been, one of the frustrations, I think, but it's always been one of the missions that you could buy and sell and trade security tokens as easy as crypto for everybody, which means everybody in terms of size of investor, not just accredited investors or sophisticated investors. And I think we're getting very close to that. But again, we're not the regulators, so we've got to just dance around and do what we have to do and play by the book and fill out forms hundreds of times and apply and keep doing what we need to do to try to get sort of the access available. But I think it's starting to crack in terms of in a good way. They're not just from our platforms, but in other platforms out there. And I think ultimately, that's the goal, is that we can get access for all the community. I think on that note, we've got another session tomorrow. We've got a strategy session internally about the use case for IXS. We're taking a clean look at what were all the use cases planned? What are the relevant use cases today? What can we do to drive more use case and more adoption? And how we're going to integrate that and implement that as to the original roadmap, which again, we're just going to take a fresh look at it and say, all right, a lot of those ideas were conceptualized before it was even built. Now, now it is built. Now that we've spoken with different people, what is the best way forward? Because ultimately, we want to drive token price and drive adoption, and that's also been part of the platform. I think we're just, gearing up now where we can actually have more realistic and more usable elements for the token itself. And for a large part of its existence, especially before the platform even launched, there wasn't a use case for the IXS because the platform's still being built. So I still don't think we're close to where we want to be from a platform perspective, from the amount of users, from the the integrations with the platforms. We're still at very early stages. So I still think we've got a very long way to go. And it's something that we're keen to focus on as well. But Shara, what would be the next topic there? I think we just went through that.
Yeah, so we went through token, we went through the white label. What about current runway? And is there any update on fundings?
I think from a funding perspective, obviously, nothing's changed there in terms of the market being super tough. I think we're going to start speaking with some investors again, probably more around Q2. That's kind of where the state is right now. I think we're good. We're good on runway for the moment. We're watching our costs very closely, and that's probably the set on that.
Anything on the license updates there? I think that's a huge blocker for IXSwap at the moment. So if we have some information there.
Yeah, I think we are still going back and forth and trying to push that forward with our lawyers. It's been many months past what we were told it would take originally. It's probably a year. But again, that's just regulation. I think, the FTX SBF incident last year has delayed and hurt everyone in the industry, and it certainly hurt us and did not help one bit. So yeah, we're pretty upset with those guys, as many people in the industry are, but again, out of our control. So yeah, we're still hammering away. We had a conversation last week with regulators and lawyers, and hopefully we're getting very, very close. But obviously with these things, we can't say dates, we can't promise anything. But yeah, I'm confident we're getting closer soon. And as to what Aaron just mentioned, you know, with new features and functions on the platform, we want to build we want to launch a setup where people can where hopefully there'll be more deals. People can see the interest in those deals from the investors, and the other investors can see what people are kind of looking at. Try to get a bit more confidence for the issuers before they launch the deal and spend even more money and more time. You know, the reality is no one wants to launch an investment product that doesn't sell, right? And that happens. It happens a lot. People set up funds, go to raise money, and they don't actually raise any money for a million different reasons. So we're trying to bridge that gap and make it more obvious, or more de-risk for the issuers, which also de-risks for the investors, that, you know, more products that come up actually there's an appetite for that. But yeah, so that's where it is on that. I'm not sure, Aaron, if you want to add anything else on that topic.
Nope, I think covered it. Not much more to say. No license.
Okay.
All right. So there's some requests about update on new website and marketing approach. I guess I can take that. So regarding new website, for those that doesn't know, the whole kind of point was, okay, we have our current website. There's some outdated stuff, and there's also a lot of information currently there that's hard to be digested by like the common crypto guy or the common finance guy, which might be interested in IXSwap. So what we had to do was, okay, let's change this up and make things more digestible, change wordings up. That was kind of the main approach. So once people go through our website, they can get a better grasp of what's actually going on here. Regarding marketing approach, we're kind of switched. The markets are still slow, even though things are going up a bit now. People are still kind of sleeping as it's winter. So what we're kind of focusing on now is pushing this tokenization, pushing IXSwap, pushing security tokens, get people to understand what's going on and where we're in the industry. That's kind of the main goal of the marketing right now. And another thing for the website, which I forgot, giving it ETA, it will be up by the end of the month now. So we're finalizing the last things, and we might delay it for a day or two because we want to integrate the academy into the website. So instead of having one domain for the academy and one domain for the website, we want to put the academy into the website. So that might push it a day or two. So that's on the website marketing approach. And then do we have any updates on partnerships?
Partnerships, I'd have to get D. Wong involved. I'm not sure if he's on this call, but we could do a partnership. I know there's been a ton of, unless Aaron, did you know you've been working with Darren?
Yeah. I don't want to name names, but we're meeting another STO. Well, not really STO. They are a digital credit platform tomorrow, and they're looking to actually tokenize all their debt onto the platform. So they were sort of halfway doing it initially, and they did it with Solana, and then Solana crashed. So now they're looking to shift it over into the Polygon chain. So we're having more discussions with them tomorrow. That's the major partnership update from I think you don't have.
Well, here. Let's see if you want to speak. All right, maybe not. Let's wait. Maybe he's setting up his microphone or something. We didn't touch on what's been going on. Aaron, do you want to maybe give a general update on what we've kind of worked on the last 2 months? Or did we already give that in the mission log or something?
I think bits and pieces have been mentioned, but let me just update on, I guess, the Launchpad itself. The Launchpad production, the development is for the front end has been completely done. Right now, what they're doing is that they're connecting the blockchain and backend to the system. Everything is on track right now, and we're actually ahead of time. But we still need to do a lot of testing, and we want to make sure that testing's right this time before we launch. Don't want any hiccups on the launch day, as we had previously.
Briefly, like explain what the Launchpad is for those that's new here and don't know.
So we created, for those who are, I guess, familiar with IDOs from the recent cycle, what it is actually individual startups or companies trying to launch their own tokens, and they can come to the platform, register for a deal, submit all the documentations, or we can help them build their documentation to create their own STOs and to launch the STOs on our platform. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then we're doing this through security tokens then.
Yeah. So traditionally, in I guess the ICO and IDO period, it was purely cryptocurrency. But what we'll be launching on the platform is through STOs. But at the end of the day, the product is really the same. I think what people will be launching, ICOs, IDOs, they're generally just startups trying to look for startup capital, seed funding. And this is probably going to be almost the same thing, except we also have mature companies in the mix as well.
Perfect. Then let's see. Moving then what we have done and then where we're currently at. Let's, I think, end this section with what's in the pipeline for the coming months. Julian or Aaron, who want to take
so
it?
I guess the immediate thing that we're trying to push out right now is really the website and the Launchpad. That should be, website should be up by the end of next week. Launchpad, we're looking at the end of first quarter. Hopefully the license will also come at the same time or even before that for the Launchpad, so that we can actually launch the Launchpad out to retail users as well. But those are the major two milestones that we want to achieve next.
All right, Julian, do you have anything to add on the next couple months, or are we good to go and move on to taking some questions?
Yeah, we can take some questions. I mean, we obviously want more of these groups to integrate, so we're doing demos for more of the STO platforms. So that's still one of our number one tasks. And again, most of them all want to have the retail investor access. So there's a few things that are sort of holding patterns. But yeah, I think Aaron summed up some of those key ones there as well.
All right, perfect. Let's then move on to questions. So anyone that has questions, you can just type them in the IXS community channel. Then I'm going to start taking questions from Twitter, from what we have previously gotten, and also the chat. So I'll start with this question here. What are the token velocity mechanisms of IXS? I guess, Aaron, you can take that.
Well, I mean, if you're speaking about, I guess, the velocity in terms of, I guess, the spending of IXS, that will hopefully accelerate during the Launchpad once the Launchpad is launched. We are trying to integrate as much of the payments that any of the, I guess, the users on the platform that will be launching their STOs or anything related to fees on the platform to accrue back to IXS. So that will be one of the major drivers for the IXS price. I think another thing that we're really looking at is really partnerships to how we can integrate IXS into other platforms as well. How we can actually add additional utility, and this is going to come up this week when we have the strategy discussion. It's really how do we get products? How do we allow our users to use IXS on other platforms? I think Pools was a good example of that. I think Pools had offered all our users access to their IDO platform without having to stake Pools tokens, but instead having IXS tokens instead. So, I mean, utilities like that is something that we're really looking at to drive up the velocity and spending of IXS.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay, and then there's a question. I don't know if you want to take it or not. What are Project Janus and Project Skylab?
Well, they were really Bridge and Oracle projects for the STO space. we have been, I guess, in a couple of different discussions on the Oracle project right now, but that's not anywhere near that's going to be done in the near term. There's a lot of moving parts. I guess the big reason why we're looking at that was really because if we wanted to onboard something like a mutual fund onto IXS or even onto the InvestaX systems without an Oracle providing any sort of price feeds to these mutual funds, there will be a lot of these funds and fund admins don't want their price to be just freely floating in the market and have huge amounts of arbitrage across different platforms. So we're actually looking at working together with fund admins, with Oracles on this project, so it won't be done by us alone.
Interesting. Okay, then I'll move on to questions in the Telegram chat. So, okay, any new podcast planned for the year for Julian on your personal one?
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, there are actually. I've done the first interview. The first couple of podcasts was just to get our rhythm in gear and get the recording sessions going, and we're super busy on other things. So I've actually interviewed a guy called Gabriel Abed, who's one of the OG crypto guys, who's connected to all the major players in the crypto space, and Roger Ver and Charles Hoskinson and all these people we're on a chat group with. So I interviewed Gabe, so he'll be coming out very soon. And then we're building out a list of key people that we could kind of interview. It's not just purely on sort of the STO stuff, but I want to try to find really good platforms that have communities, and then we can introduce IXSwap, InvestaX to the communities of the people we're interviewing. So there's a few people that I think that we'll be getting on board. I won't name any names right now because anyway, we just had a session on that last week actually. So yeah, the podcast will move from just me talking about a particular topic to actually interactions with people that have communities, so we can get our across kind of promotions coming. So yep, that's something that I enjoy doing. It's obviously it takes time. I haven't had a huge amount of time for that, but yeah, you'll see some more, and we'll start bringing them out soon. And I'm actually going to do a podcast probably as soon as next week, AI related as well. So that'll come out. We'll see how that goes. So yep. So thanks for that question. We'll keep you posted on the podcast as they come out. I think it's a good way to get our projects in front of other communities in a friendly, detailed way. We can actually talk back and forth about ultimately podcast topics and interviewees in the future would be a lot of people issuing security tokens, and a lot of the security token platforms who are working with IXSwap. So yeah, I think the Shara, you already lining one up, I think, with another STO platform, which we've got to get to the table. So stay tuned. There'll be more to come.
Yeah. So regarding that, so Julian has his own personal podcast, and then we on the IX website are also trying to line up more community events, more podcasts and talk shows from our side where we represent IXSwap. So again, with the marketing approach where we try to push tokenization, security tokens, IXSwap, so we can spread that message from that side too. Okay, next question from Speed. Will you provide such incentives and rewards to those who invest in IXSwap token? Okay, so basically the question is, can you tell us your plan about how you're going to take care of IXSwap investors? What's their incentives to invest? You're on mute.
Sorry, the question is, what is the incentive for someone to buy IXS now?
Yeah, and how will you take care of the investors that's like already invested kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the purpose of the token is that it's the native token of the IXSwap platform. It will become also preferred and native crypto of the InvestaX platform, and we will try to get other STO platforms that integrate with IXSwap to do the same thing. Now, buying any of these digital assets is obviously highly risky and highly volatile, and most coins go to zero or very close to zero. Relative, there's still a lot of tokens out there, of course, but a lot of the projects don't happen. So, what's the incentive for us? Well, at least Aaron and I have been paid. Only ever get paid in IXS tokens and never in fiat money. So we hold IXS tokens, and that's one incentive, that the team is aligned, because that's the only way we get paid, and we haven't sold anything. But yeah, from a platform perspective, we want to try to drive as much adoption as possible for the benefit of IXS token holders. So nothing's changed there. We want to try to improve and take a fresh look at the actual use, the drivers of the use case, and try to get as many, incentives and reasons for people to buy IXS, whether that's an issuer of a security token, whether that's investors as well. As you said before, it's a very tough market. There's not a lot of interest right now in many things, although recently, in terms of the last 2 weeks, there was a bit of a pump. But yeah, look, I think ultimately we believe, obviously, in the project. We've been at this for 2 years. It's a very long time to be working on I guess, it's not a super long time to work on a project, but what I was going to say is it's a long time to be working on a project where your payment, at least from the incentive for Aaron and I, is that we've been paid in an asset that we haven't sold, that and no other way right now, because we believe in the project, and we wanted to use all the capital that we've raised and use all the money on building out the tech and building out the team and getting licenses. So I think from an incentive perspective, the founders couldn't do anything more for the project in terms of structurally. It's the most beneficial to the project. And then we continue on with that. So that's it. There's no promises, there's no guarantees. It's highly volatile. Don't buy it if you can't afford to lose that money. That being said, I don't think IXS is going to be any lower in value than it is now, or than it has been after just the most disastrous year in crypto. Pantera just put out their 2022 blockchain, I guess, report, 2023 predictions, whatever it is. They're the OGs of real sophisticated investors in the blockchain space. They were the very, very first fund, I think. And they basically start their newsletter with 2022 is like the worst year in crypto ever, in like since the beginning, because of all of the, and I think that's kind of true. And that's why so many tokens are down like 20% in value. I don't think if FTX didn't blow up again, I don't think we'd be anywhere near as price performance as we are today. But again, we can't do anything about it. We move with the market. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, and definitely regarding the token, it's like, first of all, what you said is important. It's the team. So it's kind of like the private markets where you have startups and the founders has their equity. So it's kind of the same thing there. But also what's interesting is how we have all these products, the STO swaps, and now the launchpad is coming. We'll have the fractionalized NFTs, and we have the staking, liquidity mining, and the token is kind of in the center of all the products. And if we don't have the current utility, we're building utility around these. All right, let's see. Next question. So there's a question, when will the new STOs be listed? So I guess that's all up to the retail license, right?
I'm looking at which question are you on? Who's it from?
I just went and found something random.
The question?
No, yeah, it was just about STOs, if there was anything new soon.
Don't know. I just looked at a question. I can't see all of them. It was something along the lines of like, if it gets tough, how do we know that you guys are still going to be here? Oh yeah, mass goes. Invested in so many projects, made promises. Investors dump the token, team dumps token. How can you ensure jumping into a new project instead of developing functional revenue? How can you ensure as the holding this token is more beneficial long term and you won't give up when things get tough? Well, it might surprise you to know that things have been tough since day one because no one's ever done this before. So I don't think we've had any really easy days. We've had a lot of exciting days. So yeah, look, we're still here. But there's a lot of easier ways for Aaron and I to make money, that's for sure, because we're not even making any money right now. We're just investing and holding all our assets in equity in IXSwap. So yeah, I mean, that's up to you to determine. You can see the track record of the team. You can see the money. You can see all the AMAs. I mean, here we are right now, sitting around. It's great to have nearly 30 people in the community here. It's actually one of our biggest AMAs for a long time, so that's really positive. But we don't have to do this. But we believe in the project. We believe in the community. We love the support. We still think we're just getting started. Some people have been disappointed by the speed of things, but I think if you look around at other projects, you can see after a while if projects are actually legitimate or not. Although some of the biggest crypto projects in the planet are arguably building nothing, but have somehow were early on and had enough money and enough treasury to just build a hype machine, but it's still completely useless protocols or layer ones or layer two. So I think for us, anyone who's ever bought this has been a believer in the tokenization of all assets, which we are, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, and that does take time. And again, the evidence is showing from a BlackRock down that, and then from a crypto meltdown, we need more regulation, we need more asset backends, that the tailwinds behind what we're doing. But it just takes some time. To give you an example, it took InvestaX 3.25 years to get its exchange license. That's almost double the time that IXSwap's even been alive. And that's just one example of one thing in the regulated space. So not easy, but here we are. And still want to see IXSwap be successful and its use case to really come to fruition, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. All right. Next question from Nick. It has been mentioned that the plan is to tokenize assets on IXSwap. Quite possibly that could be the most lucrative utility for all IXS holders. Question is, what steps has been taken and still need to be taken in order for that to happen? What is the time frame to have that come to fruition? Maybe Aaron, that's a good one for you.
Well, that's really what we're building on the launchpad right now. I think what we've actually been doing is that the legal team's been working really hard to actually to standardize all the documentation and structures that we think is the best route to create an STO, all the way to the point where it would become easy for the person to set up a company on SPV, and the individual owner would just have to transfer the ownership into the SPV and essentially just use all our documentation for standard STO issuances. To start off with, this is only going to be debt and equity, rather simple structures, but we can eventually build on that. But that's really what we've been working on over the last, couple of months as well, to get the launchpad up and ready. We want to standardize and make it as easy for people to launch STOs. We need more products in the market, so I guess this is what we're offering in the market right now. A lot of time has been spent by the legal team to look into the different jurisdictions, the different structures, to find out what's the best way to launch an STO in today's market, and I guess the most cost-effective way as well.
Right. And then, Aaron, one other for you. Is there any new STOs in the pipeline, or are we still waiting for this?
A lot of the STOs that we're looking at right now are linked to that retail license of ours. There are a couple of bond products that we are looking at as well. I think we're also going to be speaking to another group tomorrow on bond products and looking to bring them on chain. These assets are already on chain, so hopefully we can bring them over as well. But unfortunately, I do think that these assets are for AIs only, so we can't really offer them to retail until the license comes. comes around.
Right. Let's see. Do you guys have any questions you want to take, or do you want me to continue randomly just pick something?
Yeah, just pick them up. I got a call in like 7 minutes, so that'll take us
Right.
through the hour. Went pretty quick, but what questions you think are the most valuable in that time?
Yeah.
They can post them to us. We could always message these guys later on and give them an answer if we run out of time.
Yeah. So I'll take a few more. I heard that IXS will also have NFTs. Yeah, we have our own NFTs. Do we plan to use them on our platform for anything, or do we have any plans for the NFTs? Maybe this one is good for Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to link the NFTs back to the NFT platform itself. We haven't quite decided when we want to push that out to, I guess, for everyone to use the NFT platform. My perspective right now is that I don't see much value in actually fractionalizing a lot of these NFTs in today's market, other than maybe a BYC and a couple of other, maybe an Azuki, right, which is sitting at maybe 10 to 12 ETH. But other than that, I don't see the value in really tokenizing a lot of the assets because most NFTs have really dropped in value. But just as soon as the market is ready and the market gets a little bit better, I think we'll push out the NFT platform as soon as possible because it's, I guess, almost complete right now.
Yeah. All right. Let's do the Twitter winning question. So we had a competition where we said the best kind of question for the AMA on Twitter gets 2,000 IXS. So the winning questions go to, let me see if I can get the name right. Juchulu, I think that's how you say it, 8215. So his question was, yesterday in Korea, the Financial Supervisory Service legally allowed STOs. Securities companies are also actively advancing into the STO market. Does the team have any plans to enter other countries, for example, Korea, using the white label method?
So we already are in conversations with a Korean group right now. They issue their own STOs, and we're looking to distribute some of the assets as well. So we are looking at working together with a couple of different STO groups across different jurisdictions, and maybe not originating, but distributing the deals that they have in their platform, so that our users can invest into these through the Launchpad.